What up, my loyal followers? All 16 of y'all. Next up in video land for myself is a overview of a few things that I have gotten completed lately, or watched, or viewed, or whatever. Watched and viewed are the same thing. I don't even know. I just played Gran Turismo for a while and was falling asleep like hard, and somehow won all my races, but I was crashing into walls and waking up and stuff. So I'm still kind of rebooting right now, so my words may not make sense. But anyways, let's get right into it because I have lots of stuff. First up, recently watched this movie, which I didn't know this movie existed until the last school I was at. I was talking to the custodian there. We got along really well. We had a lot in common. And we got talking about Jay and Silent Bob and Kevin Smith movies. And he said, "Oh, have you ever watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie?" And I was like, "What? Did not know it was even made." So here it is. Jay and Silent Bob reboot. So, this is basically... The whole joke is that it's it's kind of the exact same thing as Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, and the whole time, the whole way through the movie, they define what a reboot is, what a remake is when it comes to movies and stuff like that, and they like pan to the they play to the camera like it's so obvious that they're just making fun of it, and the whole trend of remakes and reboots and all this stuff and everything, and it's pretty funny. But basically the story is that Jay and Silent Bob get approached by this shyster lawyer that works for Saban Films, that like the Power Rangers company, who have acquired rights to their movie rights, and also their names, so they can't even call themselves Jay and Silent Bob anymore. So they're all pissed off about this. And they decide to figure out what the hell's going on. So they go and see Brody, who now has a comic book shop in the mall. And he says, yeah, they got a Blunt Man versus Chronic movie in the works, which is like Batman versus Superman. And it's filming. It's almost done, completed shooting, but it's got one last scene that's going to be filmed at this year's Chronic Con, which is a take, of course, on Comic Con. And so they decide once again to travel across the country and go stop this movie from being made, get their names back, and set everything to rights. So they set out on this journey across country, and of course lots of incidents and whatnot befall them. But the biggest one is that I forget where, is it Chicago they're passing through? When Jay sees on the news his old girlfriend Justice, who he calls Boo Boo Kitty Fuck, is a famous weather person in that region, and so he says, "Oh, I'm gonna go chicken on her and get me some," and so he does. Turns out she's become a lesbian, and they actually have a daughter together, and she just didn't tell him because she didn't think he would be interested in whatever. So he's like, "I have a daughter," and so he meets Millie, short for Millennium, last name Falcon, and so this kind of changes Jay's outlook on things, and him and his daughter and her friends kind of unwillingly team up to get to Chronic Con, because one of their friends, before she's being deported from the country, or no, she's an exchange student or something. Anyways, before she goes back to China or wherever she's from, she wants to go to Chronic Con for some reason. I can't remember what it is. So they tag along and stuff. And then so there's even more adventures. And along the way, Jay kind of has this sort of maturing process as he kind of considers how his parents were never really, like he didn't have a dad growing up, sort of thing, and how that kind of made him grow up. And so Millie's obviously upset that she never had a father growing up. She doesn't know Jay's her father yet. And so it gets him thinking about all this stuff and about the guy he wants to be and stuff like that. And so as they finally get to Chronic Con and go about trying to stop this movie, they finally have an awakening that, the movie's fine. Let it be. let it whatever. That's not what's important in life. What's important is his daughter and stuff, and the people in your life and stuff like that. So it has a pretty good ending in terms of feel good and whatnot. And there's lots of joking, and like Kevin Smith is the guy directing the Blunt Man versus Chronic movie, so he has a scene where he's pumping up the audience at Chronic Con. Everybody's like, I hate this fucking guy, right? So like everything Kevin Smith does in this movie is just make fun of himself, the whole Hollywood movie industry in general, and all the trends and stuff in it. So it's just it very much is a reboot of Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, but it's not like, it's still a fun movie. It's not like, oh, what, this again, you know. It's definitely worth a watch, and it's pretty hilarious, just like the other ones are. So lots of guest appearances too from people all throughout the Kevin Smith world that have appeared off and on. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Joy Lauren Adams, you know, a lot of the people, James Vanderbeek and Jason Biggs, who were Blunt Man and Chronic in the movie, and lots of others that I forget now. But you can't go wrong with any movie in the whole, what do they call it? The View Askew verse or whatever it is. The whole Mallrats, Clerks, Chasing Amy, whatever. It's just Kevin Smith makes really good movies. So I highly recommend. Next up. A while back, my wife ordered us Disney Plus as a streaming service, and we watched the first episode of The Mandalorian, and then the next time we went to watch it, it wasn't working, and we're like, what happened to Disney Plus? She's like, oh, I canceled it. You guys weren't watching it. So, and that's fine, because there's too many streaming services out there, and it costs too much money to have them all, and I'm, when it comes to Star Wars, I don't want to stream it. Like, Star Wars is one of my favorite things in the universe, and it's something that I collect, right? But the problem is, with Disney Plus, they don't release things on DVD anymore because they want you to stream their service, right? So I went on eBay and found what must be some sort of bootleg release from Malaysia or whatever, wherever it was from, of the first season of The Mandalorian. So I got to watch it all, and I get to add it to my shelf and not pay Disney Plus however fucking many dollars a month just to own it temporarily until I don't want to pay it anymore, and then it's gone, right? So that's my whole thing. This whole digital fucking crap. Fuck it. So The Mandalorian is the story about a Mandalorian. If you don't know Mandalorians, Mandalore is a planet in the Star Wars universe, and it's also a race, but they're not. Anybody can become a Mandalorian if they're taken into the tribe, sort of thing, right? And they have very identifiable armor, like Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Sabine Wren, in the Rebels series, and they have a very certain code and way of doing things and sense of honor and stuff like that. Very fierce warriors, but their planet has succumbed over the years to infighting, attacks from the Empire, and stuff like that. So a very cool element of the Star Wars universe, the Mandalorians. I've always really liked kind of their background and their mysterious kind of way of life. So this story focuses on a Mandalorian. We don't know his name at the start. He is a bounty hunter, and he goes to take a job from the Bounty Hunters Guild, and his contact is a guy named Grief Karga, who is played by Carl Weathers, which is pretty cool. And he is to track down a target and bring this target back to some sort of high-ranking Imperial guy. And this is set a handful of years after Return of the Jedi. So Vader and the Emperor are gone, but the Empire still has the remnants of its fleet, and it's still a presence, right? A big presence. And this high-ranking Imperial guy wants this target taken alive. So the Mandalorian goes to this planet, wherever it is, and faces off against scores of guards and warriors and whatever. In the process, an IG-11 droid, he kind of teams up with him, and we know right off the hop that this Mandalorian does not trust droids for some reason, based on this relationship and how it starts. And in the end, they battle through all the resistance, and they come to the target, and it is a little tiny Yoda creature, a little baby one with big black eyes, and I think the IG-11 unit goes to either kill it or capture it or whatever, and the Mando puts a bullet through, or a blaster bolt through the IG unit's head or whatever, and offs him and takes what is known as the child with him. And for some reason, he has a crisis of conscience about this target for whatever reason. Usually bounty hunters are pretty business is business, right? But he can't take the child back to this Imperial fella. He knows what's going to happen, right? So I can't remember if he actually does take him back and then takes him back. But either way, the whole story revolves around the Mando traveling around with this child after he refuses to complete this bounty. So naturally, for refusing that, he becomes wanted, and the guild kind of kicks him out or makes him rogue or whatever the hell it is. And so he's got people after him, but at the same time he still has to survive and fend for himself. So he's taking other jobs and kind of trying to figure out his situation. So in the process, he comes across a bunch of new characters, a little Ugnaught named Quilly or something like that, who he helps out with something and who in turn helps him out. An old Republic shock trooper, I think she was, named Cara Dune. And they develop a working relationship. And in the end, all of his allies come together to help face off against this Imperial threat once and for all, and kind of free the Mando and the child from this life they're leading of being on the run and stuff like that. But in the end, a new Imperial presence, a guy named Moff Gideon, shows up, and he knows all about the Mando. He knows all about Cara Dune. He knows all about Greef Karga, and he kind of corners them on this planet. And the last episode is kind of their fight back against Moff Gideon and their escape from his clutches. And kind of it ends on a cliffhanger about where's the Mando going with the child, and what's going to happen to Cara and Greef and stuff like that. So it kind of ends on a bit of a cliffhanger after a narrow escape. So awesome TV series. A lot of these TV series, especially Disney now, it's almost like they have unlimited budget like movies. So the effects are great, the writing is great, the actors are great, everything about it is just fantastic. So I actually have season 2 as well. So we're going to start watching that hopefully in the near future, and that will be a future mention. Next up, this is one of my favorite book series that I kind of discovered over the last little while. I'm deep into it now, but usually when I go to Indigo, I'll I always go to the kids section, and I look at covers and titles just to kind of get some inspiration, and a new series will grab me, and I'll go, oh, that looks interesting, and I'll take a chance on it, right? And most of the times I'm bang on. It's right up my alley. But there's some obviously I like more than others. This one is probably, after Brandon Mull's series like Fablehaven and Candy Shop Wars and The Outsiders and stuff like that, it's arguably my favorite one along with Brandon Mull's books, and it is the 12th installment of the Skulduggery Pleasant series called Bedlam. Just so violent, so funny and quirky, and so magical and mystical. It's just, there's something about this series that you just eat the pages up like nom, and you can't stop reading it, and you just want, okay, next book, right? In this one, Valkyrie and Skulduggery are on a mission to find the weird creature Dr. Nye, who they believe can help restore Valkyrie's younger sister Alice, restore her missing soul fragments, which is a long story, but Valkyrie killed her in order to save the universe and then brought her back to life. In the process, her soul got split or whatever. So, but Valkyrie wants to make her sister whole again, and she's on a mission to do so. In the meantime, there's lots of other stuff going on. Sebastian, the guy with the weird plague mask, and his followers are looking to locate Darkess in whatever weird dimension she's escaped to and bring her back to Earth for whatever reason. What's her name? Oh, God. I can't remember her name. Serafina Day is she runs kind of a cult that worships the faceless ones or something like that. And so she comes to Roarhaven to meet with China Soros, who is the Grand Mage in charge of the city, and they're unsure of what her intentions are. So they've got this weird situation hanging over them, and also Abyssinia, Skulduggery's ex-wife, crazy woman who is almost impervious, and is set about the destruction of everything, is planning to set the mortals of Earth against the magicians of Earth in an all-out war. And to do so, she's planning on revealing magic to the world at large, as she's kind of manipulating a bunch of young mages to attack a U.S. naval base on the East Coast, on Oregon somewhere, I think it is. And she's in league with the U.S. president, who will then stage a response and just kick off basically World War III, but it'll be between mortals and mages, and the ultimate goal is rulership over the world, right? So within this fighting, Valkyrie's having these visions of Omen and Augur Darkly, the Darkly brothers. Augur is the chosen one, who's had this prophecy that he's going to be the one to take on whoever, Abyssinia or whoever it is. And Valkyrie keeps having these visions of Omen dying in the States. And so she's like, you can't go to the States. So he ends up going to the States, of course, and confronting Abyssinia and her troops. And so it all kind of culminates in this battle at this U.S. military base in Oregon, where things go well. The Darkly brothers aren't destroyed. They prevent the war from happening. But in the process, Abyssinia makes a decision to unleash possibly an even worse evil on the world. So now we have a cliffhanger going over into the next book, which I have looked at online to see what at least the title is. I'm not sure if it's released yet, but either way, it'll be coming at some point in the near or very far future. We'll see. Next up, finished this on the Switch recently. Paper Mario, the Origami King. I've played 2 Paper Mario games before, one on the Wii, one on the 3DS, I think it is. And I really like, they're kind of slow-paced, lots of text and story, but pretty fun and different, right? So like basically the whole world and all the characters are made out of paper in these games. And in this one, Mario and Luigi are going to an origami festival outside Peach's castle, but when they show up, there's nobody around, and they're like, what the hell? So they go to the castle, and they find that Peach has been folded into an origami, brainwashed origami kind of a version of herself, and by this guy named Ollie, who is now calling himself King Ollie, and he's unleashing all sorts of origami soldiers called folded soldiers all over the kingdom. And Mario, in the process of talking to this guy and facing off against him, Bowser gets captured and gets folded up, and Mario comes across Olivia, who is Ollie's sister, and who is like, why is my brother doing this? So the two of them team up and go about trying to solve this problem. And what Ollie does in the end is that he blasts the castle, Peach's castle, away to the top of a volcano, and then secures it there with these 5 different colored ribbons that spread out into the sky and go God knows where. So basically, it's an open world game, and you kind of follow a somewhat linear path, and you go from ribbon to ribbon and solving all the puzzles and the situations to get to the base of these ribbons, destroy them, remove them from the castle, and which will eventually allow you into the castle to face off with King Ollie, right? So a lot of it's action adventure. You're out exploring and stuff like that, and searching for stuff. When you actually do combat, it takes you to this circular ring where your enemy's in the middle, and then it's almost like a dartboard. There's these little slots, and then you get certain many turns to spin different rings, or you can push the columns out and shift them across. And so your goal is there's items all over the board. So arrows that make you move, attack squares that make you attack, or whatever. So you have to plan your moves within a certain time limit with the number of moves you have to execute your attack on the boss. So the the attacking is very RPG, and it's a different style than kind of I've seen before. So, but cool. There's a lot of thinking involved. So you get these different variances in gameplay throughout the game. And then there's also a level where you're basically on the high seas driving a boat around, and then you get off and go on to land. And so there's lots of different looks in this game. It's although there's only 5 ribbons you have to uncover, each world has pretty good depth to it. Like, it takes a while. So it's a game that is a lot of fun, offers a lot of variety, and keeps you busy for quite a while. So it's a 10 out of 10 for the Mario franchise, just as, you know, most of them usually are, right? So next up, don't have a case for this one because I downloaded it. I was wondering, why the hell haven't they made a Scott Pilgrim video game? Apparently they did back around the time the movie was released for Xbox something or other and PS3. Sorry. And I never really knew about it. They just re-released it and put it on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, whatever. It's everywhere now. And so I was like, my son saw it announced somewhere, and he was like, yeah, they got Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, what? So I went on, and literally 10 seconds after he said that, we had downloaded it. So Scott Pilgrim is a Canadian story by it's a series of graphic novels by a guy named Brian Lee O'Malley. From the Toronto area, I believe, because that's where everything takes place. And it was also made into a movie afterwards. So Scott Pilgrim is like a young 20-something in Toronto who is out of school but not really doing much. He plays bass in a band called Sex Bob-omb, and is dating a high school girl. So he's kind of not really anywhere, right? He's kind of figuring things out and whatever. So he's kind of cool, but also kind of a loser, you know? So he goes to this party one night, and he sees this girl kind of sift through the party with blue hair, and he's like, who the hell is that? Ramona Flowers is her name. She's kind of got this mysterious presence and lots of rumors about her past around her. She's apparently American, and Scott's just obsessed. So he spends the next number of days, weeks, whatever, kind of trying to see her and woo her and court her, and finally it works. And but Ramona eventually has to reveal to him that, you know, Scott, if you want to be with me, you gotta do battle with my 7 evil exes. And so then the rest of the movie is just him facing down these 7 evil exes in a row before he can be with her, sort of thing. And it's just ridiculous. Like, the movie just does such a good job of making it crazy, right? And it's just such a good story and so funny. And it's just the whole video games are a big theme throughout the story, and so it made sense that there would be a video game about this franchise, right? So the game itself is actually done in more of a 16-bit style, so it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of game. That's a modern game, but done like an old game, and it just plays awesomely. Controls are great, sound is awesome, graphics are great. You can control 4 characters right off the hop. There's other ones you can download or unlock or whatever. And there's basically 7 levels, of course, because you got to face down the 7 evil exes. And if you can face them all down, get to the end guy and beat him, you've won the game. Lots of different items you can get along the way. You save up money that you get from beating people up, and then you can spend it on different things like food to restore stuff, or different moves to increase your power and your speed permanently, sort of thing. We played this game like crazy. You know, every time we got a chance, we were like, Scott Pilgrim, right? And I just enjoyed it immensely. So and it's cheap too. So if you're looking for a simple kind of play that's kind of old school themed, go get it. It's awesome. Last up, and I'm not really reviewing this because it's not great, but Professional Farmer 2017 for the PS4. I picked this up in a bargain bin a while back and started playing it because I really like the idea of simulations and stuff like that. And farming was always one that I really wanted to try. I thought it'd be fun. And the game is good. It looks good and everything, but there's no fast forward feature to the things that you're doing. Like every time you want to take a tractor to a field to plow it or whatever you need to do, you literally have to sit in that tractor the whole way down the highway and into the field and then back, and then like there should be some sort of way to at least simulate the drive there and get rid of that time, because it's just a waste of time. Like I don't have that much time in my life, spare time in my life, to just be fucking around driving a tractor down the side of a highway, right? So that was kind of disappointing, and ultimately that is why I stopped playing it, because it just took up too much time and it wasn't worth it, right? Like I'm going to spend time playing other games where I'm actually accomplishing something, right? So like I said, the gameplay and the graphics were good. They weren't top notch or anything, but good enough, and I really liked, you know, the general idea of these types of games. But this one just, they didn't put enough features in to make it. You know, it's okay if you want to take the time and do that, but there should be a feature in it, like different settings where you can be like, okay, no, I got to get rid of this. Like, just take me to the field so I can do this, right? Like the fast travel kind of features, right, that some games have, and it just didn't seem to have that, or else I just couldn't find it or whatever. But either way, that's kind of why I stopped playing it, and I'm putting it on the shelf. So maybe when I'm retired years from now and I have fuck all to do, I'll go back to that. But probably not. But anyways, that's all I got for now. Till next time.